everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of the Novels and Needles podcast. I'm your host, Heather, and this is a podcast where I talk about two of my favorite pastimes, what I'm reading, and what it is that I am knitting. So this is a podcast where I discuss the books that I'm currently reading or have finished recently, as well as the knitting projects that I'm working on and that I have finished. It tends to be pretty even with both, and I have debated, going one way or the other, but I like having two different things that I talk about. I think it kind of gives me a little bit of variety, so I'm going to stick with that. Although when I am posting on social media, such as Instagram or Ravelry, it's a lot more knitting heavy than it is reading heavy, so I definitely encourage you to follow me on Instagram. I'm going to put all of that information up on the screen so you can see it and you know where you can see me. I definitely have been stepping up my Instagram posting lately, although life has, as I will explain in the life part of this, the last 2 weeks my life has gotten really, really hectic. It has been about 2 weeks, I think, since I've seen you. So I'm doing my best to stay active on those platforms, even though my life has gotten super, super crazy and insane and turned on its head. But that's all in a very good way. There is also a Ravelry group for this podcast, and that's the Novels and Needles Ravelry Group. If you search the group tabs on Ravelry, you should be able to find that. Yeah, so like I said, it's been 2 weeks since I've seen you. My life has gotten really hectic and really crazy. I think that I am going to stick to a every 2 weeks podcasting schedule, and that'll kind of I'll explain a little bit more as to why that's going to be later on when I talk about my life kind of stuff. But just with all of the shifts and all of the changes that are happening in my life, I don't know that podcasting every week is going to be feasible, and also because I'm afraid that my reading and my knitting content is definitely going to go down a lot, and I might not have very much to talk about every week. So I am going to aim for that. I have kind of shifted when I'm filming from Monday to Friday. Today is Friday, May 5th, and I think Fridays are going to start to work out a lot better for me. So my goal is going to be to maybe podcast and upload everything on Friday, but it might be Saturday morning before the podcast gets uploaded, just with upload times and things like that. So watch for that change. I'm going to try to stay pretty consistent with that. If you are enjoying the podcast, please hit like, hit subscribe. Oh yeah, welcome obviously to everyone who is watching. If you're new, thank you so much for checking me out. Like I said, hit like, hit subscribe, and that if you hit the little bell icon by subscribe, it'll give you notifications of when I am podcasting. To all my returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back and checking me out. I really appreciate that you come and spend some time with me and listen to me blather about a couple of the things that really bring me a lot of joy in my life. So I think that's all I've got really on the business end of things. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. Like I said, when I get to the life stuff at the end of all of this, I will elaborate more on why everything is kind of shifting and changing around. So keep that in mind. There will be timestamps down in the down bar on YouTube where you can skip ahead to parts. If you aren't interested in, say, the novels portion, you can skip ahead to the knitting. Likewise, if you want to hear the reading part but you don't want to hear the knitting but you're curious what's going on, you can skip after you finish listening to the books. So I try to make it really easy for you to kind of check out the things that you want to check out. And yeah. So I guess before I jump into anything, I'll talk about what I'm wearing, because that's kind of obvious. This isn't a book thing, but this is my exploration station that I knit at the beginning of the year, and this is designed by Stephen West. It is May, but the weather has taken a turn for the worst, and so I'm glad I hadn't really put a lot of my knits away, because I'm needing to bring them back out. So I'm wearing my exploration station today. So without further ado, I will stop babbling on now about stuff that doesn't make too much of a difference and get into what it is that I have been reading. What I've been reading. I unfortunately, I do not have any finished books this week. Like I said, my life has been so crazy lately that I have had little time to sit and do some of those things that really bring me joy. And so I really have not finished anything. I think next time I will have stuff finished, but right now there's no finished books. So I guess I will, since there aren't any finished books, I will go into what it is that I am currently reading. The first book that I'm currently reading or listening to is the audiobook, and I did touch on this briefly last week, and that is The Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This is the second book in the Red Queen series by her, so if you have not read The Red Queen and you would like to, and you don't want anything from that book spoiled, I would recommend that you skip on to the second book, because just because of the nature of series, if I'm talking about a second book in a series, there could very well be spoilers from the first book, and I'm not really sure how to get around that. If any of you have any tips on that little tidbit, please let me know, because I'd like to avoid it. But I don't know how, because major plot points of the second book really involve what happens in the first book. So moving on. In the second book, The Glass Sword, Cal and Mare have escaped from Maven, his brother, who in the first book, at the end of the first book, Maven and his mother kind of control Cal to murder his father, and now Cal and both Mare are kind of cast into exile. They were supposed to be executed, but they managed to escape their execution, and they're now on the run. They have teamed up with the Scarlet Guard, and just to give you kind of a breakdown of the way this series goes, in this world called Norta, there are two classes of people. There are those with silver blood, and their blood is literally silver, and they have a special ability, such as Cal, for example, who was the prince. He can control and manipulate fire. Some can manipulate metal, some can manipulate minds, some can heal. They just have a variety of various abilities. And then the second class, which is considered the lower class in this world, in this society, are those with red blood. And they're just average people, and they're the ones that have to scrape to get by. They struggle to work. They get sent to the front lines to fight in this war that isn't really going anywhere. And so there's really this major class divide. The Scarlet Guard is a group of Reds who are looking to rise up and kind of overthrow the typical silver government and to balance things between the two parties, the two classes, so to speak. However, as it turns out, there are individuals with red blood who have silver abilities, such as Mare and her brother Shade. Mare is able to manipulate lightning and control electricity, and her brother Shade can jump, and he'll be in one spot and then he can teleport basically. And it turns out that these people that they call New Bloods are actually more powerful than the Silvers. And so Cal and Mare have gone off with the Scarlet Guard, and they are not only in their protection, but they're aiding them and helping to find these New Bloods so that the Reds can kind of rise up and replace, or I don't know if they necessarily want to replace, but change the way society is structured so that Reds aren't the lower class citizens and the Silvers aren't considered the ruling elite anymore. And so right now what they're doing, I think I'm about halfway through this listen, is they're going around and they're trying to collect these New Bloods. And that's a lot of what's happening at the moment in the book. And there is obviously a lot of suspicion about Cal because he is the former prince and he is of the ruling line. But so far there isn't really any hints as to what might be going on with that. I'm not really sure what else to say. I am enjoying the series, although there is really a lot of the same similar threads of a lot of other young adult books. But I am enjoying it. It is an entertaining listen. You know, it's definitely not going to earn 4 or 5 stars for me on Goodreads, but you know, it's entertaining, and that's what I really look for in fiction. Is a lot of times it's just to be entertained. I don't necessarily want something super in-depth. I think it could be really in-depth if the writer stretched herself a little bit, because there is definitely a class division, and that's pertinent to the world today. But for now, I'm just enjoying it as a book to listen to. So moving along into the actual book that I am reading. This book is also the second book of a series, and that is the Last Kingdom series, or the Saxon stories, and that is The Pale Horseman by Bernard Cornwell. And again, they're likely to be spoilers of what happens in the first book, although the first book isn't really something that like has a lot of twists and turns, so I'm not sure that by talking about this I'm really giving a whole lot away for you. So the Saxon stories tell the tale of Uhtred, son of Uhtred, who is a nobleman from Northumbria. These are all set in the mid-800s, I believe, really during the time where the Vikings, or the Danes, are coming and invading England and trying to set it up as rule. And England is divided into several smaller kingdoms. There's Northumbria, there's East Anglia, there's the West Saxon kingdom, and I think Wales is still separate at this point in time, and there may even be another kingdom. Oh, Mercia. That's the other kingdom. So England is divided up into multiple kingdoms, and the Danes have come and they've invaded, and they have taken over Northumbria, where Uhtred is from, and he is from a town called Babenberg. And I apologize if I am slaughtering these names. I have not watched the series to get pronunciations correct, and they do use a lot of the Old English pronunciations, and I'm definitely not Old English, so I apologize if I am mispronouncing things. So please correct me if I am doing that incorrectly. I apologize for those mistakes. So Uhtred was captured when he was a small child and raised by Danes. He was captured by Earl Ragnar, who is a fictitious character, and he was brought up to know how the Danes lived, and he was trained as a Danish warrior. But as the West Saxons kind of took over the Danes and won some battles, Uhtred ended up back on the side of the West Saxons, and that is where he is in this book. And he is a young man now with a wife and a child, and he is bloodthirsty. He is a young man, he is cocky, he is arrogant, he's kind of a jerk, and he's really looking just to fight. And he's really struggling with his identity. He is West Saxon, and he is heir to Babenberg, who his uncle currently holds, and he wants that back. But he's struggling with this. I am an Englishman, and I am also I was raised as a Dane, and he's really struggling to find his place. And part of him wants to go back and join the Danes and fight with the Danes, but then part of him wants to go claim his birthright, and he's really trying to figure out where is the best place to do this. I'm about halfway through the book, and he is acting as a warrior for Alfred, who is king of the West Saxons. And Alfred is an interesting guy. He is sick a lot of the time, and he is highly, highly religious, and he starts off believing that his priests will pray him through any battle or any conflict that he might have with the Danes. And Uhtred is trying to convince him that, no, you have to fight the Danes. And so Alfred is he's slowly coming around to this concept, but it's taking some work. So like I said, I'm about halfway through, and the Danes have driven Alfred into exile, basically, and Uhtred is kind of leading this action to try to get Alfred back to claim the kingdom and to drive the Danes out, and he's decided that this is the best way for him to go ahead and reclaim Babenberg. So this is a series that I'm really enjoying. I really do enjoy historical fiction. That is my favorite genre. I particularly love England and the historical aspects of that. I've never read anything kind of set this far back. And it has been interesting because in addition to reading this series, I've also watched the History Channel series Vikings, which is really about Ragnar Lothbrok and how he originally kind of came over to England and located that. And so it's interesting to kind of read it from both perspectives, so to speak. And so I really, really have enjoyed that. I will say Bernard Cornwell is a very good writer. He describes things very well, but not in a tedious or monotonous way. These books aren't super fast reads. They're not like gripping and you got to get on to the next page, but they're really well done and I find them very interesting. And I really do enjoy reading them a lot. That is it for my books this week. It's not a lot because, like I said, I've been super busy and I haven't had much of a chance to do much reading. I don't have any book acquisitions. I don't have those very often. When I do, I show them to you, but I don't have any this time around. Probably won't next time. So I think that's it for the books. If you just came for that, I apologize. This is such a shorter segment this week. But it is the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. If you don't want to listen to the knitting, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to what it is that I've been reading. If you are curious about the stuff that's been going on in my life, go ahead and skip the knitting and get down to that portion. And you can check that out and give that a watch, listen as well. So thank you so much for listening to what I've been reading. And I'm going to move on and talk about the things that I've been knitting. Knitting. I will say I apologize if the lighting is really weird. The window is really bright and it's like screwing up my screen on my camera, and I'm having a hard time really telling what the coloring looks like. So I'm really sorry if the coloring and the lighting is really wonky in this episode. I apologize, you guys. So I have been working on my knitting. I do have 2 finished objects and a hoe, which is significant given how busy things have been, but I only have 1 real work in progress. And it has been, like I said, life has been super busy. I mentioned last time that I was working on a shawl that I needed to give as a gift, and I did gift that. However, I was not able to get any video of it. I just did not have time. I do have pictures, and so I am going to put some pictures up on the screen now and talk about the shawl a little bit and let you look at the pictures and not just look at me while I tell you about a shawl that you can't see. So this shawl that I knit as a gift is called the Lavender Fields Shawl, and it is a free pattern from Knit Picks. I will say it's a really pretty lacy pattern. It's designed to go with their Knit Picks Stroll Gradient yarn that they just released recently, and I did grab a ball of that, or a cake of that, because it's knitted up it's caked up, so it's an actual cake. And it is just this really beautiful, light, lacy shawl that accents that color change. And I think it was really simple to knit, and I thought it was so beautiful. The finished product was so beautiful, and I think it really makes a very nice, lightweight shawl. Definitely good for spring and even into summer a little bit, because it's not super big and it's not super heavy. You definitely could keep going with it to make it bigger and make it wider. As you can see in these pictures, I stopped shortly when I got into the orange portion, and if I had been knitting it for myself, I would have continued knitting and just knit up the whole cake and knit all the orange, and there would have been like an orange band on the edge. However, since this was a gift and I wasn't real familiar with the person that I was giving it to, I didn't want to go too crazy on the orange, and I kind of like just having that subtle little band of orange there along the edge. I really like that effect and what that looked like. This colorway is called Hologram, and as I said, it's the Knit Picks Stroll Gradient set. And I knit these on my Knit Picks interchangeable US size 6, and they are a 4mm needle. and those are wood, the ones that I use. I don't use the nickel ones. They were wood needles. As I said, it was just a really enjoyable knit, and I thought the finished product was really pretty and really nice. I may knit another one of these because it's just a really pretty, really lacy shawl. The woman that I gave it to thought it was beautiful, so that was great too. And like I said, I really enjoy this knit. It's a free pattern, pretty simple, nothing to it. Knit up really quickly. It only took one skein or one cake of yarn. So it's a great quick gift knit if you're looking for something like that for a birthday, or Mother's Day is coming up. I knit it in a week. You've got time. Get going. So that's my first finished object for this week. My other finished object this week is a pair of socks, and I know I haven't had any socks finished recently. I've been working on a lot, but I just haven't gotten any finished. And I haven't added to my box of socks. So these are my April box of socks entries. These also are qualifying for 2 knit-alongs. The first one is, because these are the second installment of Mina Phillip, the Knitting Expat, her New York sock collection, New York Sock Club. And then these are also going into KT of Inside Number 23, her Harry Potter cow. So these are the socks. These are the Avenue socks. Got them in my sock blockers. And they just have a really nice texture to them. It was a really simple pattern, and it just gave this really nice texture that I really, really liked. Reminiscent for me a little bit of Hermione's Everyday Socks, which are some of my favorite. And the pattern was just really lovely, lovely to knit. I do always, when I do a sock pattern, I generally tend to stick with my cuff, toe, and heel of choice, and I did the same for this. I did a 1x1 twisted rib for the cuff, and the stitch count is a little variated from your typical stitch count, and so the 1x1 twisted rib really lent itself well to that. I don't want to give away a lot of details on the pattern because it is a paid-for pattern and it is part of this club, and every month in this club Mina is releasing a new sock pattern, and the third one just came out, and it's really pretty and I'm really excited to do it. I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I find that my foot isn't too weird about heels, and this fits pretty well. And then I just did a rounded toe as my toe. So there is the pattern on it. It's really pretty. The yarn that I used is from the Forbidden Woolery, and this is one of their installments of the Harry Potter Club. This yarn is called All Aboard, and it is her take on the Hogwarts Express. This is a merino cashmere nylon blend. It's her Justice base, and this is my first time knitting socks with merino cashmere and nylon, and I will say it was glorious. I tried these socks on, made sure they fit and took a picture for my Ravelry page, and it is glorious. I cannot wait to wear these because they're just so soft and so squishy, and they feel so wonderful on my feet. I'm super, super excited to wear them. I just love the colors too. I think they're just such a nice, I don't know, I love it. I really love how these socks turned out. I'm excited about them. And I knit them 2 at a time on my Haya Sharps US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needle. The Haya Sharps are definitely growing on me. It is really a toss-up for me of those and the Addy Turbo sock rockets. The sock rockets to me seem to slide. They seem to be a little bit smoother. But I kind of like that the Hayas, they have this tiny hint of drag, which especially with knitting with the MCN was really nice. So I really do like them both. I can't choose one or the other. There are definitely things I like about each one that set them apart. So yeah, I could go either way with those. But I enjoy knitting with both of those needles. Sorry, random needle thought and conversation. Yeah, that is the other finished object that I have this week. I think the New York Sock Club, they're only available right now as the whole collection. But they really are great patterns, and Mina does a great job with really breaking down a sock and really explaining things very, very well, and their patterns are so well written and so detailed. I would really recommend, even if you're not interested in these, she's got some other really great sock patterns that, like her Beyond Vanilla, and go check them out because they're really great patterns, and I really, really recommend her stuff. So check out Mina's stuff. I also have a hoe this week, and that is also a single sock. I'm not going to put it on the sock blockers because I don't think you can see the pattern very well when I put it on the sock blockers. And this is the Devil's Snare sock that I was working on for the Harry Potter Cal. When I realized that I was not going to be able to finish the second one of these and knit the Avenue socks, that's when I just switched gears. But I am going really well now for my May entry for the Harry Potter Club because I already have one of the socks done. So this is the Devil's Snare pattern. I'm not sure how well you can see it. And this is another pattern by Erica Luter, who did Hermione's Everyday Socks. She has a whole series of Harry Potter based sock patterns, and I want to give a lot of them a try because they're really good, and I enjoy her patterns a lot. So there you go. There you can kind of see. So it kind of looks like the Devil's Snare across the top. It's a simple lace pattern that was pretty intuitive for me. I don't know if I put it on my hand if you'll be able to see it better at all. So yeah, so there's the lace pattern. I really, really liked it. As I said, I did, my typical 1x1 twisted rib. I did do the modified partridge heel flap and gusset on these guys because I like the fit of that as well, and these fit really, really well too. And I did my my rounded toe because I have my feet are kind of like straight across. I don't have pointy feet, and so the rounded toe really fits my foot the best, other than some of the more pointed toes, and I just like the look of it a lot better. So the yarn that I used is Knit Picks Hawthorne, and it is the Mount Tabor colorway. It's just a nice kind of tonal green. There's some pops of lighter green and a little bit of blue in there to give it some color depth. It's just a really, I really like the color a lot, and it just, yeah, and it goes perfect with these Devil's Snare socks. I also knit these on my Hiya Sharps, a US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter. That is my sock needle of choice. I find that I like the fabric that it makes, and I like the fit. I do knit a very tight gauge, and so I need to like go up a needle size, so this gauge is probably more consistent with what most people knit on a US 1 or a 2. I think it's a 2.25 millimeter needle. So I just want to throw that out there because I do knit a pretty tight gauge, and I usually have to go up a needle size in patterns that gauge matters, because otherwise I'm gonna knit things too small. So that is my hoe, my Devil's Snare sock. I'm hoping that I can get that second one cast on and work on that and get that done pretty early, because I also want to knit the third sock in Mina Phillips' New York Sock Club patterns. Works in progress. I only have one real work in progress to show you this time around because I did just finish those socks and I had to get that shawl done. So I'm going to show you that, but I'm also going to show you, I think, my temperature blanket this time around. So that's kind of my second work in progress. And this one is a prayer shawl, and my pastor's husband has to have a bone marrow transplant. And so I wanted to knit him a prayer shawl to take with him for that, and so I'm knitting it on acrylic yarn because I wasn't sure with things. And I have to laugh, you guys, because this is a Stephen West pattern, but I'm going to show it, and this is also a Stephen West pattern, and you may remember from last time the Marled Magic MCal, that's a Stephen West pattern, and you're probably familiar with Stephen West. So when I show you this, you'll laugh because this is so tame for Stephen West. This is his Boneyard shawl, and it's just the most simple pattern. It's wonderful. It's a perfect pattern, I think, for a prayer shawl. It is a free pattern. So if you want to try Stephen West, but you don't want to pay for his patterns, you can go check this out and give it a try. It is written for DK weight yarn, but because it doesn't really matter, I am using a worsted weight yarn on it and just went up a needle size to give it a nice drape, and I'll tell you about that when I'm done. It's knitting up pretty quickly. It's a pretty simple pattern, really easy to memorize. The yarn that I'm using is Lion Brand. It's their Heartland yarn and the Olympic colorway, which is this pretty blue. And like I said, I'm using the acrylic because he is having the bone marrow transplant. I wasn't sure about animal fibers and how any of that might go with your immune system being completely whacked out. So I thought acrylic was really the safest bet. And I know it sounds weird because it's a big box store, but I've tried other acrylics, and I do really like the Lion Brand acrylic. It is very soft. It doesn't feel super plasticky. You can see it doesn't really have that crazy acrylic shine to it, and it just feels really soft and really nice. And I think it's a nice acrylic yarn to use. It's one I like to use. I have used James C. Brett, and I like that as well. Was not a fan of the Knit Picks Mighty Stitch when I tried that. So I think Lion Brand, guys. Joanne Fabrics, Michaels. Not too bad. So I'm really working on this, and I need to get it done pretty quickly because he's getting really close to having his transplant. And so I'm trying to get that taken care of. I'm knitting these on my Knit Picks interchangeables. I'm using a US size 10, which is a 6mm, which is a little bit bigger than a worsted weight calls for, but I wanted it to have just a really nice drape to it, and I think that it does. So this is my boneyard shawl. You can definitely Stephen Westify this for sure. You can, there's lots of flexibility in colors, like you could do each little section a different color if you wanted to give it some variation, or you could just do this ridge in a different color. I've seen lots of cool variations of it. So yeah, just a fun, simple Stephen West shawl to play around with. So I wanted to just talk real briefly about my temperature blanket. I said that I'd kind of show that once a month or so. I will say I am behind, again, craziness of life got me behind. So I am behind on this. I am not done with April yet, even though it is May, but I wanted to kind of show it to you guys anyway. This is going to blow out a lot because these are like such bright colors. So here is the current progress of the temperature blanket. I changed kind of how I was picking up stitches, and it did like this weird thing where now my squares are kind of slanty. I don't know if you can see that. It kind of bothered me, but then I'm like, you know what? I don't really care that much. I'm just gonna let it go. And I think, given the way everything is kind of gone with my life, I think this is I don't think I'm gonna do a temperature blanket next year. But it's still fun. I'm still enjoying doing it. I can do a square. I'm just doing a 12 by 12 mitered square. And I can do a square in about 20 minutes, which is really the perfect amount of time when I'm not behind that I want to work on this. I'm doing these bright neon colors. It's Knit Picks Stroll Brights are the colors that I'm using. I'm not gonna go over what the individual colors are because I think my Ravelry page has those. If it doesn't, I'll try to get that on there so you know what colors that I am using. And I've talked about it before on the podcast, so I don't want to go over that again. I'm knitting these again on my Knit Picks interchangeable. These are a different wood. I can't remember what this is called, but I love this one. And US 9, which is a 5.5mm needle. So like I said, I'm still enjoying the temperature blanket, but I think just with everything coming up and the fact that my knitting time is going to be really limited, I don't think I will continue that in 2018. I don't know. I might change my mind. Hard to say. I will say I like the mitered square version better than the chevron version that I did. It's a lot more manageable with size and being able to control size. So I think that, yeah, I'm liking that a lot better, having it be that way. So that is going to be it for my works in progress. I am going to talk, I have a couple kind of acquisitions. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm going to talk about those, and I'm going to talk about a project that I have in my sights that I'm excited about, and I think will be really fun, and I want to get you guys excited about, and I think you guys should check it out as well. So I'm going to talk about my 2 acquisitions that I have this week. Both were birthday present-y sort of things, and I will say both come from like a yarn club sort of situation. So just going to warn you right now, I think everyone has probably got these because they were from April, but I'm going to tell you what yarn club they are, and if you are signed up for that and you have not received your skein of yarn, you can look away and because I don't want to ruin anything for you. So the first one, I had talked to my mom a little bit about Laura of the Fawn and the Fox and how much I loved the stuff that she dyes. I have one of her project bags, which is my purple unicorn bag that I've shown several times. And I just feel like her colors and the way that she plays with colors just really speak to my soul. I love them. And she's been doing a mystery yarn club every month. It's like a 1-month sign up with a different one of her bases, and she just dyes a skein and sends it off. So I was telling my mom, and she's like, well, I think you should do it, and I'll give you some money and you can sign up for it. Well, you can call it part of your birthday. So I signed up for the April one, and it's on her Badger base, which is 5% superwash blue face Leicester, which I've never worked with before, and 25% nylon. So here's the color. Look away if you want to. The color is called Tree Climber, and this is it. I love this. It is so beautiful. It's got all of these greens in it, but then if you look closely, like there's some hints of red in there, and like a little bit more of like earth tones. I kind of pull it up a little bit. I love this. There's like some darker green. I think this is so beautiful. I've never used blue face Leicester before. There's even a little bit of blue in there. And I like the way that it feels. It's like somewhere in between regular wool and merino. It's still really soft while still having a bit of that woolly feel to it. I'm really excited to knit with it. I think it's so beautiful. It's so special, and I have to decide what I want to do with it. Part of me wants to make a pair of socks out of it because I think it would be great as socks. And I think that's probably what I will ultimately end up doing. But yeah, I love it. So I'm going to put it down now so you can come back and watch if you're in that club and you have not seen that yet. So that one was super exciting. The other acquisition that I got was the April installment of Forbidden Woolery's Harry Potter club, which was gifted a 3-month subscription for, also for my birthday. And so if you have not seen that one, received that one, and you're scheduled to, please look away now. This is called The Forest of Dean, and it is just kind of like a grayish, I don't know, grayish green color. This is on her charity base, and this is her tag. Oh, it's upside down. Which is 100% superwash merino. And it's a really nice yarn. So the Forest of Dean, sorry, I'm gonna pull this out, is one of the places where Harry and Hermione end up when they're jumping around trying to find Horcruxes. So she includes these little cards that kind of talk about her inspiration for the color, which I think is really cool. So those, yeah, I'm excited about that, and I do have a plan for this, and that's what I am going to talk about next, is my plan for this yarn. Some of you may have seen that Joji Locatelli is doing a mystery knit along for a shawl, her starting point shawl, and there's been all over Instagram, if you follow Joji, different kits that dyers are putting together for knitting up this shawl. It's a 5-color shawl, and I have decided that I think I want to do it. I had so much fun doing Stephen West's, and Joji Locatelli designed the sweater that I knit for myself, my On the Grass sweater, which I absolutely love. And I have several other patterns of hers in my Ravelry queue that I want to try out. Some sweaters and some shawls. And so I thought I need another prayer shawl for someone who likes green. And I thought, well, this will be I think this will make a really good prayer shawl. And so I'm planning on doing that as another prayer shawl for this person. So I wanted to show you the colors that I've chosen. If I can get them all together. Oh. So these are my 5 colors that I am working on. Kind of hard to see some of them. So I have, and I'm building it all, this is what I'm building it all around. This is really blowing out because of how bright this is. This is yarn from Beautiful Mess Yarn Works, Jamie, and this is called the Get Down, and this is on her, it's 100% superwash merino. This is like the softest yarn ever, you guys, and it's so bright and vibrant, and it's got all of these like pops of color in it. And so when the person that I'm knitting it for, she likes green and she likes yellow, and this has got yellow in there, but she doesn't necessarily like them together. So I thought this with the pops of yellow would be great. So this is what I am building off of. So the other yarn that I am using is going to be this kind of a forest green, which is a Knit Pick Stroll. This is Aurora Heather, so that's going to be one of my colors. I'm going to use the Forest of Dean, I think, I don't know, over here-ish. This is another Knit Picks Stroll called Mountain Pass, that's going to go in there. And then, to add a bit of a pop of color to it is going to be this pink, to kind of pull that pink out of the Get Down. And this is also Knit Pick Stroll. This is called High Tea. So this is going to be the Joji Locatelli Mystery Knit Along shawl. So I'm really excited about that. I think that starts May 15th. So I'm excited to get the first clue and get that cast on. And I should be done with the prayer shawl by then, and I'll just kind of be working on socks in between it because I want to get that done. So I'm really excited about that coming up. I will say that is everything that I have for my knitting this time around. I know it wasn't a ton. So I'm going to talk about some of my life stuff, which has been really exciting. So if you're not interested in that, thank you so much for watching. Please hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. It helps get the video out there, and I've noticed I've got a few more subscribers, so thank you to everyone new who's subscribed. And just thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I'm going to talk about what's been going on in my life now. Life stuff. Lots of, well, a really, really big, exciting thing has happened to me. I kind of alluded to it last time, but I wasn't able to really talk about it. Now I can talk about it. For some of you may know that I've been looking for a job, and I've been looking to kind of extricate myself from the current living situation that I have, which is not the greatest one for myself or my kids. And I had been really struggling to find a job and was getting very, very frustrated. I was finally starting to get some job interviews and was going out on those. And the other piece of my life that I haven't really shared on the podcast is I was going down the path to be a candidate of pastoral ministry in the United Methodist Church. And with everything that had been going on in my life, a lot of that was kind of put on hold because I was thinking, you know, I need to get a job, I need to get a stable place for myself and my kids, and then I can think about seminary and move on from there. Well, God seems to have had other plans for me. I was quite literally walking out the door to a job interview when I got a call from the district superintendent. And if you're not familiar with the hierarchy with the Catholic, or not the Catholic Church, I'm not Catholic, the United Methodist Church, and most of you probably aren't. Within a state, there are, or an annual conference, which is usually kind of a state-based sort of thing, there are things called districts, and they're a regional thing that are all presided over by a district superintendent. And the district superintendent, in conjunction with the bishop, appoints pastors to churches. And so, and then you get moved around as a pastor from time to time. But it's the district superintendent who really kind of, they guide where pastors go, and then they get to know the pastors and kind of can know where are good fits and where aren't. So I got a call from my district superintendent, and I thought it was going to be something to do with getting me before the district committee to be certified, because I hadn't done that yet, or to find out about going to annual conference in June. I was not prepared for her to tell me that she had 2 churches for me, and for me to go become a full-time pastor. I was completely floored and taken aback, and my first thought was, no, there's no way that I can do this. And she said, well, think about it, and I thought about it, and I was presented with full-time employment, health insurance for myself and my kids, a pension, disability should I need it, travel expenses, continuing education expenses, and most of all, a parsonage and a place to live. And I was very taken aback. Like I said, I hadn't even started school. I hadn't even been certified. And after spending a lot of time talking to people, praying, thinking on it, meditating on it, I decided I would accept. And so starting July 1st, I will be a pastor of 2 churches. We will be moving. The kids will be changing school district. I've spoken to both of them. They're pretty excited about it. Abby is definitely excited. Phil comes and goes, but they both are, he's acting like I would expect a normal 7-year-old to act. So there's still some kinks that need to be ironed out, but we're looking at moving the end of June sometime, so things are going to get a little crazy around here. I will do my best to keep up with an every other week podcast schedule, because I want to keep this going. I want to keep a part of my life that is separate, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that. This is not going to be a preachy sort of podcast at all. That's just where my vocation is going to be, and I wanted to share that with you guys, because it has been a very long, hard road, and I'm really excited about it. I am also completely terrified, and definitely have moments where I just kind of feel like I'm gonna throw up, but mostly I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to this new adventure. And I thank you guys in the knitting community. You guys have been super supportive and awesome, and I'll bring you along for the ride as best I can. And yeah, I'm just really excited and hoping that I can still carve out a small piece to maintain who I am. And I know that's extremely important in this line of work. So I'm really excited. Not 1, but 2 churches. Oh my gosh. So I don't have much more to say about life, because that's been pretty much all consuming lately. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for all of your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for any comments or kind words that you've sent me. They do mean the world to me. This is such a great community, and I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I want to continue to be a part of it. So thank you so much, everyone, and I just hope that you have a great weekend and a great week to come, and enjoy. Happy knitting, everyone. Thank you.